Hey guys, so this is a bonus segment within the class and it's all about the importance of understanding. This isn't really like core material, so feel free to skip ahead to the next video if you're really rushed for time. But this is a conversation that I had with my friend Asaid. He is currently a final year medical student at Cambridge University. He consistently ranked like in the top 3 in the year group for the last several years. So he's really, really good at taking exams. And obviously because he's at Cambridge, he absolutely smashed his GCSEs and his A-levels. And he's been using this knowledge of effective studying to really absolutely smash these exams ever since he found out about these techniques. So in this video, we're talking about the importance of understanding. And I start by asking him what it actually means to understand something.
When you understand something, it's a lot easier to retain. And I think more generally, and I think it's part of how I study, I really struggle to bring myself to simply memorize details without having any kind of understanding. Not because I can't do it, and in fact, to a certain degree in second year, I did do that to some extent, but it just doesn't feel right to me. And I have this kind of nagging feeling inside of me to really understand what's going on.
And how do you define understand? Like, how do you know you've understood something?
I suppose for me, it's about coherence within my mind. If there aren't any kind of unexplained questions that I have left on the topic, then I'll consider it understood. If I can kind of derive the topic through some basic first principles within my mind, I feel as if I understood it. And I guess that's different to other people who feel like they've understood it when they can say explain it. That wasn't necessarily what I used. It was more about internal coherence.
Okay, but what's the difference between internal coherence and being able to explain it? And I ask because often my proxy for do I understand something is would I feasibly be able to explain this to a 5-year-old? And I feel like for me, when I have internal coherence, it means I can be like, okay, well, you know, if you lose 20% of your blood volume, then that happens, and therefore that happens, and that happens, and it's a chain of events in my mind.
So absolutely. I mean, I think sort of the gold standard is being able to explain it to a 5-year-old. That really indicates like quite in-depth conceptual clarity. However, you can't always necessarily have that. I think especially in physiology and neurophysiology, there are some quite complex concepts that you need to understand. And for quite a few of them, there'll be times where I'll understand them for seconds at a time and then lose understanding. And I know the method I need to re-understand them. I know the diagram that will make me understand them again. But usually, because the concepts are quite complex, sometimes I'll only be understanding them whilst contemplating the diagram either on paper or in my mind.
Okay. But once you've understood that, you're then happy to just remember it for the exam, because you know that at one point you had that moment of clarity where it all made sense.
So I mean, even then, I wouldn't necessarily just call it remembering a random fact or anything like that without meaning. I'll remember how I came to understand it, and I'll usually, if I need to, be able to work out how to understand it again. And I guess this is probably a bit more relevant to neurophysiology than, say, physiology, because it has perhaps the most kind of advanced concepts within medicine, some of the most abstract concepts which really seem very divorced from things you'll find in everyday life. Such that unless you've got a mental image built up where you're imagining the circuits all at once, it's quite difficult to really remember what's going on. But what you can remember is a basic outline which you can reconstruct in your mind and somewhat run as a model.
Understanding a subject is like having a mental model of that subject in your mind.
Absolutely, yeah.
And to some extent, you can explain bits of those to a 5-year-old, but to some extent, as you're saying, it's just there. And you probably could, if you had to, put all the time and effort to figure out how to simplify it down to explain to a 5-year-old. But it's unsustainable to do that for everything.
I mean, I guess the one example I could give. So I'm currently doing supervisions in neurophysiology for the second year students. And the next supervision that I'm planning to give is on memory, specifically on the role of the hippocampus. And as far as it's taught in the course, everyone knows that the hippocampus is involved in memory. If you have damage to the hippocampus, it interferes with your ability to form new memories, and sometimes you lose old memories as well. but the reason for that isn't quite clear. And I remember learning and understanding back in second year that the way the hippocampus works is that it works as an index. It doesn't store memories, but it just, like an index in a book, documents where in the cortex the memories are stored. So if you ever want to resummon a memory, it can recruit all the parts of the cortex that are needed at the same time. Now, there's a very specific circuit structure which allows that to take place within the hippocampus. I don't remember that at the moment. And it would take a while for me, probably half an hour, to really work through the diagram and re-understand it. But because I know that basic concept that the hippocampus is working like an index, and that there are these basic neurological principles like neurons that fire together, wire together, I can basically use those guiding principles to re-understand what I understood in second year.
So yeah, that was the chat that he and I had as part of a much wider discussion about study tips, but we've included that bit in the class, and the rest of it you can find on my YouTube channel or elsewhere. We'll put links in the video in the project and resources area to more links about a similar topic. But yeah, that's basically the idea of understanding and building the sort of mental model of the subject within our mind. So I hope you found that useful. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.